The road into Salem is swallowed by fog. Not the thin, morning mist Abigail Ward is used to, but a dense, living shroud that clings to the windshield like breath. Her GPS flickers, the digital map freezing on an unmarked stretch of road. No cell signal. No lights ahead. Only the rhythmic hum of her car engine and the uneasy pulse in her throat. She tells herself it's fine, typical New England weather. A perfect atmosphere for her Halloween documentary, Salem Then and Now. The producers had wanted authenticity, and this town, tucked off every modern map, promised just that. Still, as she drives deeper, the fog thickens until even the yellow lines on the pavement vanish. Then, abruptly, the road ends. Before her stands a wooden sign, weathered in gray. Welcome to Salem Village, EST 1692. The letters look freshly carved. She parks near the edge of town, where the asphalt gives way to cobblestone. The air smells of wood smoke and damp earth. Gas lanterns flicker along the street. Real flames, not bulbs. Men in tricorn hats cross her path, tipping them politely. Women in linen dresses and lace bonnets carry baskets of apples. Somewhere in the distance, a horse neighs. It feels like she's walked straight into a reenactment. Only there are no cameras, no guides, no signs of modern life at all. Excuse me. Abigail calls to an old man stacking firewood. Is there a hotel or bed and breakfast nearby? He looks up, startled, as though she's spoken another language. His eyes, pale and milky, blink slowly. Lodgings, he murmurs. Aye, the tavern, just past the green. The words are archaic, yet his tone holds no hint of performance. She thanks him and walks on, her boots clicking against the uneven stones. The villagers stare as she passes, curious, cautious, whispering behind gloved hands. When she reaches the tavern, she notices something odd. No wires. No power lines. Not a single electrical pole. The windows glow with candlelight. Inside, the air is warm and heavy with the scent of roasted meat and tallow. A woman behind the counter greets her in an accent straight out of colonial Massachusetts. Abigail laughs nervously. You guys really go all out for Halloween. The woman frowns. Hallows Eve comes but once, miss. 'Tis right to honor the condemned. The phrase lingers in Abigail's mind like a splinter. Honor the condemned. She pulls out her phone to record a quick note, but the screen stays black, battery full, yet dead to the touch. A boy at the bar watches her with wide, frightened eyes. You shouldn't be here, he whispers. Not after dark. Why not? She asks gently. He hesitates, glancing toward the door. They come back. Before she can ask who, the tavern clock chimes once, sharp and hollow. The room falls silent. Every head turns toward her. Abigail forces a laugh, unsettled. Okay, she says to herself, pocketing her useless phone. Let's at least get some establishing shots before the crew arrives. She pushes through the tavern doors, stepping back into the cold night air. The fog has lifted just enough for the moon to gleam over the rooftops. A church bell tolls somewhere in the distance, 3 slow, uneven notes. She looks around for the source of the sound, and that's when she sees it. A notice board nailed to the church fence, the parchment yellowed with age. She leans closer and wipes away the dew. October 31st, 1692. Her breath catches. This has to be a joke, she whispers. But when she turns back toward the tavern, it's gone. No lights, no door, no warmth. Just an empty lot and a faint smell of ash. Cliffhanger. Abigail stares at the date on the notice again. It hasn't changed. Not 2025. Not even close. It's 1692. The Festival of the Condemned. By morning, the town hums with quiet activity. Abigail wakes in a small, creaking room above the tavern, though she doesn't remember falling asleep there. Her phone is still dead. The battery pack, too. No signal. No clock. Only sunlight bleeding through thin curtains and the faint echo of distant hymns. Outside, Salem has changed. Lanterns hang from every porch. Carved pumpkins flicker with candlelight even though it's barely noon. The villagers move with a tense kind of purpose, whispering greetings that sound rehearsed. They're decorating for something. The Festival of the Condemned, a woman explains when Abigail asks. She's young, with soot-stained fingers and a nervous smile. It's tradition. We honor those wrongfully judged. Abigail perks up. This could be perfect documentary material. You mean, like a historical remembrance? For the witch trials. The woman tilts her head, puzzled. Trials, she echoes softly. No, child. The trials haven't happened yet. Abigail laughs uneasily, assuming she misheard. But the woman's eyes stay fixed, unblinking. There's something in them, an ancient kind of sorrow. As the day wanes, the townspeople gather in the square. Drums begin to beat, a slow, steady rhythm that echoes through the cobblestone streets. Abigail films with her handheld camera. It works now, somehow, recording the flicker of torches and the sea of faces illuminated by flame. Everyone wears masks, crude, hand-carved likenesses of men and women with twisted expressions. At first, she thinks they're symbolic, representations of the condemned. But then she notices the details. Each mask matches a real person from the witch trials. Sarah Good, Rebecca Nurse, Bridget Bishop. She knows their faces from her research. Exact replicas. Her excitement falters, replaced by dread. She zooms in through her camera lens and freezes. The faces beneath the masks aren't stable. The camera shows them as something else. Burned flesh, open eyes, mouths caught mid-scream. When she lowers the camera, the people look normal again. When she raises it, the horror returns. The music grows frantic. A preacher steps to the center of the square, holding a great book bound in cracked leather. His voice booms. Tonight, we remember. Tonight, we make right what was done in false light. Let the condemned walk again. The crowd cheers, but the sound twists into something inhuman, a blend of laughter and cries. Abigail's hands tremble. Her instinct screams to run, but curiosity anchors her in place. The preacher opens the book, its pages fluttering on their own, stopping at one name, Sarah Good. Thunder rumbles overhead, though the sky remains clear. Candles flicker out, one by one, until only the preacher's face glows in the firelight. Then someone behind her whispers, voice dry as paper. Welcome home, Sister Abigail. The words slide into her spine like ice. She turns, but no one is there. Only the empty space where shadows stretch too long. The drums stop. The preacher looks directly at her now. His eyes burn with recognition. The circle is complete, he says solemnly. All have returned. Abigail stumbles backward, breath quickening, the crowd closing in with gentle smiles that no longer feel human. Her camera beeps once, screen glitching. The date on the footage updates automatically. October 31st, 1692. Cliffhanger. Abigail drops the camera. On its final frame, frozen in digital static, her own face stares back at her from the crowd, wearing a mask of ash and rope. The next morning dawns gray and soundless, as if the world itself is holding its breath. Abigail wakes on the tavern floor beside her camera, its battery somehow drained again. Her last memory is the festival, the crowd, the masks, the whisper in her ear. The footage is gone. All of it. Only a single corrupted clip remains, a faint female voice murmuring her name over and over. She decides to visit the church, hoping to find records, answers, something to ground her back in reality. The building looms at the end of the street, its steeple cutting through the fog like a spear. The doors groan open at her touch, revealing an interior lit only by candles that haven't melted. Inside, it smells of mildew, wax, and centuries of prayer. As she explores, her boots echo across the wooden floorboards, until one plank shifts under her weight. Curious, she kneels and pries it loose. Beneath it lies a small, weathered book, bound in what looks like animal hide and sealed with a rusted clasp. She wipes away the dust, her breath catching at the name scrawled on the first page. Sarah Good. Abigail recognizes it instantly. Sarah Good, the beggar woman accused of witchcraft, the first hanged in the trials. A name burned into every history text she's ever read. Her fingers tremble as she undoes the clasp. The diary's pages are yellowed and brittle, yet the ink glistens fresh, as if written that morning. She reads the first entry aloud, her voice echoing through the silent church. They come in dreams now, the ones who speak the truth. I have seen the gallows and firelight, and the faces of those who will condemn me. The circle must not be broken, or all shall be lost. The air in the church shifts, cold, electric. The candles gutter violently. Abigail flips through the diary, scanning strange sketches, symbols carved in spirals, figures standing in a ring of flame, a crude drawing of the church itself. Some pages are stuck together with what looks like dried blood. Then she notices something impossible. The ink is moving. Letters bleed and twist across the paper, forming new words where there were none. She watches as a fresh sentence etches itself before her eyes, the tip of an invisible pen scraping softly. To unmask the accusers, the veil must first be torn. Her pulse pounds. She whispers, "How? How is this happening?" From behind her, the church door creaks open. Abigail spins, but no one's there. Only a chill that creeps down the aisle like a living thing. The diary flips a page on its own. The writing grows frantic, ink dripping like tears. They think us gone, but we remain beneath their breath and bone. We wait for her return. Abigail's mouth goes dry. For who? She asks the empty air. The answer comes in the faintest whisper, as if from within the pages themselves. You. The candles flare, then die, plunging her into darkness. The church bell begins to toll, slow, uneven, as if counting down. She fumbles with the diary, clutching it against her chest, and a final line appears, glowing faintly red as if written in fire. Begin again, before the bell tolls 12. The sound of the bell grows louder, closer, until she realizes it isn't coming from the tower above. It's coming from beneath the floorboards. Cliffhanger. Abigail drops the diary in terror and watches as the ink seeps off the page, crawling across the wood toward her shoes, forming a perfect circle around her feet before vanishing. The faces of the past. The days no longer feel like days. The sun rises and falls, yet the light never truly changes. Always a dull amber haze, as if the town exists inside a dying candle flame. Abigail can't tell how long she's been in Salem. Her watch stopped ticking. Her phone remains lifeless. Only the diary, now carried everywhere in her bag, seems to move forward. She begins interviewing townspeople, determined to understand their rituals before the festival of the condemned resumes. Every face she records looks normal through her camera, until she reviews the footage later. Then, the distortions appear. Eyes too wide, mouths that don't blink out when the head turns. And sometimes, two faces, overlapping, as if the same soul were wearing two masks at once. Her rational mind clings to explanations. Faulty hardware, sleep deprivation, maybe carbon monoxide from the tavern lamps. Anything but the truth clawing at the edges of her thoughts. She seeks out the Reverend first, hoping for context. Reverend Hale greets her with warm eyes and a voice like oil. Our faith endures, he says, even in the face of falsehoods. He speaks in riddles, slipping between centuries, quoting scripture that doesn't exist. When Abigail mentions Sarah Good's diary, he stiffens. That book should not be opened, he warns, the warmth draining from his voice. Words have weight, Miss Ward. Especially hers. She laughs nervously, trying to keep the interview light. History is meant to be studied, Reverend. We learn from it. He leans closer, his breath cold against her cheek. Then learn this. History here is not behind you. It walks beside you. That night, unable to sleep, Abigail spreads her research notes across the tavern desk. She studies sketches from 17th century portraits of the accused and their accusers, comparing them to her footage of the villagers. Her pen slips from her hand as realization sets in. The faces match. Perfectly. The kindly tavern keeper, identical to Judge Hathorne. The Reverend's daughter, same as the girl who once cried witch. Even the old man stacking firewood, his likeness carved in a trial woodcut, dated 1692. Her chest tightens. The villagers aren't reenactors, they're reincarnations. She opens the diary again. Its pages flutter on their own, stopping at a sketch she's never seen before, a ring of figures standing in a circle of fire. All of their faces are blank, except for one, hers. The likeness is unmistakable. Her hair, her eyes, the small scar above her lip she got in college. Underneath, scrawled in blood-dark ink. The final accuser walks again. A gust of wind rattles the shutters. She looks up and gasps. The portrait paintings on the tavern wall have changed. Every one of them now bears her face. Abigail stumbles backward, knocking over her chair. The candle on the table flickers violently, throwing the room into stuttering shadows. For a moment, she swears she sees figures standing behind her in the reflection of the tavern's window, faces pale and watching. When she turns, the room is empty. But the diary lies open once more. New words glisten wet across the page. The past remembers. The past waits. Her breath trembles. The villagers' laughter outside turns shrill, like the echo of children crying through the centuries. Cliffhanger. Abigail glances down at the diary again and freezes. In the margin of the same page, a crude drawing appears, her own figure at the center of the gallows. Beneath it, written in a shaking hand, condemned. The mirror in the church. Abigail returns to the church that night, drawn by a compulsion she can neither name nor resist. The diary rests heavy in her satchel, its pages whispering faintly whenever she moves. The streets of Salem are empty now. Lanterns flicker but offer little warmth, casting long, twitching shadows that seem to follow her every step. Inside, the church smells sharper than before, smoke and mold, candle wax, and something metallic, coppery. Her boots echo hollowly across the floorboards. Somewhere, a loose pane of glass rattles, though no wind reaches inside. In the vestry, she notices it, a cracked, tall mirror leaning against the wall, its frame carved with twisted shapes that resemble faces in anguish. She approaches cautiously, her reflection shimmering oddly in the fractured glass. At first, it mimics her movements. Her hand raises, hers in the mirror rises. She blinks, so does it. Then the distortion begins. Her reflection lingers a fraction of a second too long, smirking faintly when she frowns. Its eyes are darker, hollowed, yet unmistakably hers. Abigail shivers, gripping the diary. "This isn't possible," she whispers. Her voice sounds tinny, wrong, echoing off the walls as if another Abigail spoke behind her. The mirror shifts again. Now she sees herself dressed in rags, a noose draped around her neck, chanting words in a language she cannot recognize. Her mouth moves, but no sound reaches her ears. Her reflection bows her head toward the floor, as if performing some ritual she cannot remember learning. Her pulse hammers. She stumbles back, tripping over a pew. When she looks up, the reflection is gone, or rather, it is now closer, stepping from the mirror as if it occupies a parallel space. Its eyes bore into her soul. Then it smiles. Not Abigail. Something older, vengeful, patient. Something that knows her. The diary slips from her hands to the floor, pages fluttering wildly. Ink seeps across the page, forming a new sentence. See yourself as we see you. Know the truth you cannot escape. A sudden chill wraps around her shoulders. The mirror's surface begins to ripple, like water disturbed by stones, revealing not only her distorted reflection, but fragments of the past. Shadowed figures being dragged to the gallows, faces frozen in screams, flames licking at skirts and shoes. The images overlap her reflection until she cannot distinguish herself from the victims. Her knees buckle, the noose in the mirror tightens, and she feels the phantom rope brush against her neck. Panic surges. She tries to look away, but her eyes remain glued to the mirror, drawn into its impossible depths. And then, with deliberate, terrifying clarity, the reflection leans closer and speaks in her own voice. Time remembers, Abigail. And so must you. The mirror cracks further, a web of splintering glass spreading across the surface. The last thing she sees before she stumbles backward into darkness is the reflection's smile, wide, victorious, and knowing. Cliffhanger. Abigail scrambles to her feet. When she dares to glance back at the mirror, it is now empty. But on the floorboards, scrawled in the same wet, blood-dark ink as the diary, appear 3 words. Condemned once more. The trial restarts. By dusk, the town square of Salem swells with movement. Abigail approaches cautiously, her camera hanging limply at her side. The lanterns glow golden, but their light casts impossible shadows, elongated, twisting, writhing as if alive. The cobblestones feel sticky under her boots, though the air is dry. The townspeople gather, their expressions polite, almost serene. Children in colonial garb clutch hands. Parents whisper words Abigail cannot fully comprehend. All around her, the familiar faces from history books, the judges, the accusers, the children who once screamed witch. Watch her with unsettling attention. The preacher steps forward, lifting the cracked leather book high. His voice booms across the square, echoing off walls that weren't there a moment ago. Tonight, the judgment is renewed. Let the guilty and the innocent alike answer the charge. Abigail freezes. Every instinct screams this is real, not a reenactment. A sudden voice pierces the murmuring crowd. Reverend Hale's daughter, her eyes wide, pale as ash, steps forward and points at Abigail. She calls upon spirits, she cries. The witch walks among us again. The villagers shift uneasily, then slowly, deliberately, begin to chant Abigail's name. It starts softly, a single syllable echoing off the stone facades, then grows louder, rising to a crescendo. Abigail, Abigail, Abigail. Abigail stumbles back, the ground beneath her trembling. Her camera falls to the cobblestones, spinning to record the circle of people now forming around her. She tries to speak, but her voice catches in her throat. The sky, once clear, darkens unnaturally. Clouds swirl, condensing into shapes she recognizes. Flames and gallows, women screaming, faces twisted in fear and fury. A sudden, thunderous voice booms from above, as if the heavens themselves have opened. Let judgment resume. The wind roars, snapping the lantern flames. Abigail is trapped in the center of the square, torches and shadows circling her. Every villager's eyes burn with recognition. Of her, of something she cannot yet remember. Her mind races. This is not Halloween. This is not a reenactment. This is the trial itself, and I am the accused. A gust of wind carries a whisper from the preacher. The circle closes, and all debts must be paid. The condemned must face what is owed. The chanting grows louder. Abigail's heart pounds in rhythm with the drums that rise from the crowd. Each step she takes seems to bring her closer to a scaffold appearing where none was before. Shadows stretch and twist across her vision, forming ropes, flames, and the faint outlines of the faces she's seen in the diary. Panic grips her. She looks up at the sky. The clouds twist into a massive, writhing eye, staring straight at her. The bell in the distance tolls unevenly, echoing in her chest. Cliffhanger. A thunderous voice reverberates through her bones, shaking the cobblestones beneath her feet. Let judgment resume. And suddenly, the first rope drops from above. The temporal prison. Abigail flees the square, stumbling over uneven cobblestones, her lungs burning and her camera clutched tightly. The villagers' chanting echoes behind her, distorted now, some voices youthful, some ancient, some screaming in tones that shouldn't exist. Each face she glimpses flickers, like film reels catching between centuries. She bursts into the woods at the edge of town. The fog greets her like a living thing, curling around her ankles, tugging at her sleeves. She trips over roots and stones, the diary bumping against her chest with every frantic step. Then she sees them, ghostly figures, barely visible at first, women and men, floating slightly above the ground, translucent but solid enough to reflect the moonlight. Abigail freezes. Their eyes are sorrowful, centuries old, yet filled with a fierce intelligence. One steps forward, voice echoing in her mind rather than her ears. Abigail, you were always part of this. She recoils. Who are you? Another figure gestures to the village. Through the trees, Abigail sees the square flicker and warp. Buildings shift like pages in a book flipping too fast. The townspeople move in impossible ways, repeating gestures, conversations, and accusations. Every swing of a torch, every word of a chant, has happened countless times before. The town? It's not real, she whispers. It's trapped. Yes, the ghost murmurs. Salem never moved on. The witch trials were never finished. Time loops here, over and over, because the ritual meant to reveal truth was interrupted. The guilt and the pain anchor the town. The condemned and the accusers, they live the same night endlessly. Abigail's stomach twists. She looks down at her hands. The diary trembles in her grip, and the pages flutter open on their own, showing a sketch she doesn't recognize yet. A circle of figures standing around a gallows, all faces blank except one, hers. I don't understand, she stammers. How can I stop it? The ghost's expression softens, though its eyes remain mournful. You must finish what was begun. But beware, those who attempt to break the loop must face the same flames that condemned the witches centuries ago. The cycle will not let go of its key easily. Abigail stumbles backward, tripping over a fallen branch. Her breath catches when she notices a glint half buried in the dirt. She kneels and brushes away centuries of soil. It is her modern camera. She fumbles to turn it on. The screen flickers to life, and then she screams. The footage shows her. Not her from moments ago, but herself being hanged, suspended above the square, mouth open in a silent scream, eyes wide with recognition. The crowd around her is the villagers, but burned, twisted, impossible. Their eyes meet hers. They know her. They have always known her. Abigail stumbles backward, dropping the camera. The fog closes around her, and the ghostly figures vanish, leaving her alone in the cold, silent woods. Cliffhanger. The wind whispers through the trees, carrying a single line, echoing in her mind. Time remembers, Abigail, and it will not let you leave. The forbidden ritual. Abigail stands at the edge of a clearing deep in the woods. Moonlight pierces through the dense canopy, casting pale streaks across the ground. Around her, ghostly figures, the original witches, hovered just above the earth, their translucent forms swaying in an unseen wind. Each one bears the weight of centuries, sorrow, fury, and relentless patience. One steps forward, an older woman with eyes like coal and hair as white as frost. Her voice carries like the wind itself, whispering and echoing all at once. You are the key, Abigail. You must complete the ritual to free us, or remain trapped forever, along with the town. Abigail's hands tremble, clutching the diary. I don't understand. How can I? I've never done anything like this. I'm not a witch. The older figure inclines her head slowly. You were always one of us. You cannot see it yet, but your soul has walked this path since the beginning. You carry the circle in your veins. Abigail shivers, a cold dread crawling over her skin. She studies the diary. The last pages are filled with instructions, written in ink that seems to writhe and pulse. The ritual requires her to stand at the center of a circle of fire, to speak the words that summon the past, to confront those who condemn the witches and herself. But the sacrifice, Abigail whispers. You will face the flames as they did. The woman interrupts, voice firm. You must relive it to break the loop. There is no other way. Abigail's chest tightens. Fear, anger, confusion, and sorrow swirl together. She wants to run. She wants to deny it all. But something deeper stirs in her, an ache of memory she cannot place, a burning sense that she belongs. The witches begin the incantation, their voices rising in a haunting harmony that vibrates through the trees. The ground beneath Abigail hums, leaves swirling into the air. Shadows stretch toward her, forming shapes of gallows, nooses, and twisted faces from centuries past. The circle of fire ignites itself, small sparks leaping from the earth to form a perfect ring. Abigail's knees buckle. She glances at the diary. The words writhe again. Speak them. Choose the side of justice, or perpetuate the cycle. Her fingers hover over the page. She closes her eyes, imagining the faces of the condemned women, Sarah Good, Rebecca Nurse, Bridget Bishop. She feels their pain, their rage, their longing for vindication. And then her own face appears among them, etched in shadow, the final accuser, the key, the condemned. Tears stream down her cheeks as she whispers the first syllables of the incantation. The fire leaps higher, circling her like living serpents. The ghosts watch silently, their expressions unreadable. Abigail falters. The weight of the centuries presses down on her. I don't know if I can, she admits, voice shaking. I don't know if I should. The diary bursts into flame, the words scorching the parchment, yet the instructions remain, glowing red-hot in the firelight. Among the ashes, a single line burns brighter than the rest. You began this. Abigail's scream is lost in the wind. She takes a shuddering breath and steps into the circle of fire, feeling it curl around her like fingers of heat and memory, her voice rising with the chant. Cliffhanger. The flames close in, the wind howls, and Abigail feels herself being torn between past and present. The ghosts whisper one last warning. The cycle watches. The circle waits. Choose wisely, Abigail, or be consumed. The choice of fire. The flames curl and hiss around Abigail like living serpents, licking her skin with heat that isn't quite real, yet stings as if centuries of pain were being poured into her flesh. The circle of ghostly witches hovers just beyond the fire, their faces solemn, waiting for her to act. Above, the sky twists unnaturally, clouds roiling in impossible shapes, black streaks cutting across a silver moon. The town square flickers in and out of existence, collapsing into snapshots of 1692. Villagers pointing, judges whispering, children screaming witch. The gallows materializes in the center, a cruel echo of history, ropes swaying without wind. Abigail's chest heaves. Her mind reels, fragments of memory colliding with the diary's warnings. The ritual, the flames, the accusers, the condemned. And then, the faces. The villagers close in, torches blazing, faces flickering between the centuries, the same eyes accusing her, then pleading, then burning with centuries of guilt. She stumbles forward, clutching the diary now half consumed by fire. The wind gusts, carrying voices, accusers, victims, and her own voice overlapping. You began this. You must finish it. Choose the side of justice. Her thoughts spiral. She remembers the moment she cursed Salem, the betrayal, the fear, the hunger for power mixed with righteous anger. Every accusation, every scream, every death loops in her mind. She sees herself, small and powerless, hanging on the gallows, eyes wide with horror. A torch swings too close, singeing her hair. The circle of fire seems to pulse with the rhythm of her heartbeat. She knows what must be done. To break the loop, she must relive it. She must become part of the cycle she's been trying to end. Tears stream down her face as she whispers the final words of the spell, her voice trembling but firm. The flames surge, wrapping her in heat and light, swallowing everything around her. The town, the villagers, the distorted echoes of time. The air shivers with a strange electricity, reality bending. She feels herself lifted, suspended between centuries. Every scream she has heard, every judgment, every soul trapped in Salem, all of it presses upon her. She can't tell where she ends and the town begins. The rope tightens around her neck. Her body feels weightless and solid at once. Her eyes blur with tears and firelight. And then, time shatters. The flames explode outward, scattering shadows and whispers. The gallows collapses, the villagers freeze mid-step, and the circle of ghostly witches hovers, suspended, their eyes fixed on her. The world tilts, dissolves, and rebuilds itself around her. And in that moment, Abigail understands the truth fully. She has always been part of this, always the key, always the condemned. Her scream fades into silence as the fire dissipates, leaving only the echo of her heartbeat. Cliffhanger. Abigail opens her eyes. The town seems familiar, yet wrong. The air smells faintly of smoke. She glances into a reflective surface and sees herself wearing 17th century clothes, her hands still smudged with ash and flame. The cycle is broken, but at what cost? The witch awakens. Abigail blinks, and the world resolves itself around her. She is standing on a quiet street in Salem. Lanterns glow gently in the crisp October night. The cobblestones are dry, the air smells of smoke from distant fireplaces. It seems normal. For a moment, relief washes over her. The fire, the gallows, the endless cycle of accusations, they feel like a fading nightmare. She reaches for the diary, but it has vanished, leaving only ash and faint scorch marks on the ground. She steps toward the main square, half expecting the villagers to return, chanting her name. But no one stirs. The square is empty, silent except for the rustle of leaves in the breeze. The church bell rings softly in the distance, 12 slow, deliberate strikes. Her heart skips a beat. Something is wrong. A shop window catches her eye. She approaches and freezes. The reflection staring back is hers, but not modern Abigail. The reflection wears a linen dress, hair pinned up in 17th century fashion. Her face is pale, haunted, familiar. Her own lips part in a silent scream that doesn't match her voice. Behind her, a faint whisper rides the wind. The cycle moves beyond Salem now. She turns. The streets of the town ripple like water, flickering between centuries. Shadows stretch unnaturally, twisting familiar faces into impossible shapes. The villagers, frozen moments ago, begin to appear at the edge of her vision, watching, waiting, their eyes glinting with knowledge. Abigail feels a shiver of understanding. The curse has shifted. Salem may be free, but its loops, its time-bound horrors, are no longer confined. Somewhere else, someone else will relive the trials. Somewhere else, the condemned will rise again. And then she realizes the final truth. This is not a town to save. This is her reality. Her soul. She has been part of the cycle all along. One of the witches condemned to return, to endure, to remember. Every Halloween, she awakens to the remnants of her own death until the ritual is complete. Her lips curl into a slow, knowing smile. The wind carries faint laughter, the echo of centuries-old voices. She steps forward, confident now. She understands her power, her place in the loop, and the justice that can finally be wrought. At last, she whispers, her voice steady and chilling. Justice for the witches. The moon shines brighter, silver and cold, as the shadows of Salem twist behind her. The streets hold their breath. And for the first time, Abigail does not fear the cycle, she commands it. Final twist. The camera, lying forgotten on the ground, flickers to life. On its screen, Abigail sees not herself, but the world beyond Salem, caught in faint, shimmering loops, proof that the curse has only grown. Salem is free, but the nightmare has become infinite.